Good evening. My name is William Watkins, Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, and it is my honor to declare the opening of the California State University Northridge commencement ceremony for the College of Humanities and the College of Health and Human Development. I ask that you all now please rise and remain standing while the CSUN Jazz A Band, directed by Professor Matt Harris, plays the national anthem. Professor Shoshana Stern and graduates from the Deaf Studies Department will be signing, and the national anthem will be sung by Gretchen Anderson.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets red clear, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through that our flag was still there. Oh, save us that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the
Please be seated. I want to share with you that the soloist that was originally scheduled to sing the national anthem was in an auto accident on her way here. She's fine. But how about Gretchen Anderson, who stepped in the last moment and gave us a wonderful rendition of the national anthem. Celebrating this occasion with us this evening and seated on the platform are members of the President's Extended Cabinet, College Dean Elizabeth Say, Associate Dean Jackie Stolkup, and all the department chairs from the College of Humanities. Also, College Interim Dean Tammy Abarask, Special Assistant to the Dean Dr. Marilyn Philbeck, and several department chairs from the College of Health and Human Development are with us this evening. In addition, from the Chancellor's Office, we have Assistant Vice Chancellor and Chief Counsel for Academic and Student Affairs, Gail Baker, Associate Vice Chancellor and Deputy General Counsel, G. Andrew Jones, CSUN Faculty President, Dr. Adam Swinson, and CSUN alumnus, Charlene Bagan. Also, Reverend James M. Lawson, recipient of the Honorary Doctorate, who we will introduce more completely in just a minute, is here on the platform. And last, joining us in the audience is Gregory Sachs, Vice President for University Advancement from California State University, Fullerton. So will all of the platform party and our guests please rise and receive recognition. And now, it's my opportunity to introduce to you, for the last time this commencement season, our President of California State University, Northridge, Dr. Diane Harrison.
Thank you, Dr. Watkins. Good evening, everyone. I believe we're here to celebrate. Good evening, everybody. All right. I, too, want to thank Professor Matt Harris, the Jazz A Band, Gretchen for stepping in, and graduates from the Department of Deaf Studies for that beautiful performance of our national anthem. It is my pleasure as president of this institution to welcome you to the 2016 California State University Northridge Commencement Ceremony for our 2015 and 2016 graduates from the College of Humanities and the College of Health and Human Development. On behalf of CSUN's distinguished faculty and staff, I am delighted to congratulate the graduates being honored here tonight. Each of you has demonstrated great perseverance to attain your goals, and by persevering, you have begun to learn what you are capable of. But this is only the beginning. Please take with you your ability to persevere and the self-confidence as you start the new chapter in your life. Take with you the knowledge that you can achieve your dreams. You can make a difference, but it may not be easy, and it will take hard work. Promote positive change in the world on issues of importance to you. Be compassionate. Appreciate and respect others' perspectives, and advocate for social justice. Promote inclusivity in your communities, as you did at CSUN. Model social discourse. Stand against discrimination, and value and respect diversity and the common humanity shared by us all. Please continue to use your skills to support tolerance and strive to understand others' views. The quality of our future depends on this. I am asking you to make a difference in the world because I know you can, and you will. Your education at CSUN has equipped you for this task, and I have every confidence in each and every one of you, and I am also personally proud of each and every one of you for achieving this milestone. Allow me to thank our faculty and staff who are here today to share in the pride of your achievements. CSUN's faculty and staff have played a significant role in supporting your success, both in and out of the classroom, and their efforts to advance student excellence and the university's mission make them the very heart of the university. Much of your experience at CSUN was also shaped by the generosity of those who came before you, by alumni who have supported scholarships, enhanced programs, and improved the facilities that you learned in every day. This year, it was very heartening to see nearly 6,400 of our graduating seniors follow their example by contributing to the senior class gift, and we thank you very much. And finally, I wish to acknowledge the incredible contributions of your families and friends, many of whom are joining us tonight to celebrate. To the parents, the brothers, the sisters, families, friends, and loved ones, the university community, and I thank you for entrusting the minds and the futures of your graduates to CSUN. We were privileged to have them as part of the CSUN family. Our graduates could not have succeeded without you. We are proud to salute you and ask that you now stand for a well-deserved round of applause. Families and supporters, please stand. Thank you. And now please join me in congratulating our 2015-16 graduates. The College of Humanities would like to give special recognition to those students who have demonstrated outstanding scholarship while at the university. These students may be identified by the honors medallions, cords, and sashes they are wearing. Will those students who are graduating with academic honors please rise and receive our applause? Thank you, and please be seated. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Elizabeth Say, Dean of the College of Humanities, to the podium to highlight a few students who are deserving of additional recognition and who serves as examples of the excellence and extraordinary achievement that can be found among CSUN's very accomplished student body.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison. My name is Elizabeth Say. I am Dean of Humanities, and it is my great pleasure to present to you three extraordinary students who deserve additional recognition. Please rise when we call your name and stay standing while I speak briefly about your accomplishments. The first of our graduates to be recognized is Alvaro Castillo. Alvaro, can you stand? From the Department of English, graduating with a BA in English with a creative writing option, Alvaro Castillo came to the United States from Mexico with his parents when he was 3 months old, grew up in the American Southwest, and is the first in his family to graduate college. Alvaro has always expressed himself creatively through writing, so when he discovered the English department's creative writing option, he knew he had found his home. He also works as a supplemental instructor in freshman composition courses and as a mentor at the EOP Dream Center. In 2015, Alvaro was one of 2 students chosen to represent the College of Humanities at the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities National Meeting in Miami Beach. Post-graduation, he plans to earn his PhD and says it would be a dream come true if he could one day return to CSUN as an English professor. I think you'll agree that he would be an asset well reclaimed by the institution. Please give a round of applause for Alvaro Castillo. The second student to be recognized is Nazanin Kinajad. Nazanin? Also from the Department of English and graduating with an MA in Literature, Nazanin is standing. After graduating from CSUN in 1995 and developing a long and productive career in event planning and management, Naz returned to school in 2012 to pursue her love of literature. She has been an active and valuable member of the English department, serving in leadership roles in several student organizations. Special recognition for Naz. In fall 2015, Naz was awarded a Sally Casanova pre-doctoral scholarship, which will help her pursue her goal of earning a PhD. She is also the recipient of the 2016 Association of Retired Faculty Award, which for her work in 18th century literature and digital humanities. Her future goals include working with established scholars in her field and applying to PhD programs in order to further develop and refine her research. For her, teaching and scholarship are the twin passions that she hopes to pursue throughout her life. Please give a round of applause for Naz. And our third honoree tonight is Wendy Palatino. Wendy? Where is Wendy? Way off to the side. Wendy is graduating with a double major in deaf studies and linguistics and a passion for social justice for members of the deaf community. She started signing with the deaf daughter of a friend when she was 12 years old and has been working toward a more equitable world for the deaf ever since. Currently, she is a student participant in the prestigious Visual Language and Visual Learning Student Network funded by the National Science Foundation and run by Gallaudet University, the foremost university for deaf studies in the country. Her future goals include pursuing graduate work in deaf studies here at CSUN and eventually earning her PhD in neuroscience at Gallaudet University. She also plans to launch a literacy initiative founded upon bilingual principles to improve literacy in the deaf community. While achieving all these accomplishments, she has also worked almost full-time while carrying the kind of course load that allows her to graduate with 2 majors. And she managed to do all of this and earn a nearly perfect GPA of 3.97. To add, yes. To add to her list of accolades, Wendy is the 2016 Wolfson Scholar, which is the highest award presented to a graduating senior at CSUN. Once more, a round of applause for Wendy Palatino.
And those students are merely 3 examples of our outstanding student body. So congratulations again. The trustees of the California State University have the privilege to award honorary doctorates to persons deemed to have made extraordinary contributions to society. This year, CSUN identified a person quite worthy of this honor. The nomination was approved by our Board of Trustees, and it is a distinct honor for us to present this degree at this ceremony. The citation for Reverend James M. Lawson, Jr. will be read by Andrew Jones, Associate Vice Chancellor and Deputy General Counsel of the California State University. Reverend Lawson, if you would please come to the side of the podium and be recognized for your many achievements.
The citation notes in part that the Reverend James M. Lawson, Jr., prominent civil rights leader, revered teacher and mentor, tireless advocate for social change, and hailed by Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. as the leading theorist and strategist of nonviolence in the world, exemplifies the mission and values of the university and our aspirations for our diverse student body. Throughout his extraordinary career as a pastor, teacher, and mentor, Reverend Lawson has shined a powerful light on the immorality of segregation and discrimination. He was instrumental in coordinating the lunch counter sit-ins in 1960, the Freedom Rides in 1961, and the Meredith March in 1966. His work in training volunteers in nonviolent direct action is laudable for its positive impact on our nation by saving and enriching countless lives while championing freedom. In 1974, Reverend Lawson moved to Los Angeles to serve as pastor of Holman Methodist Church. Since his retirement, Reverend Lawson has continued to speak out against racism, campaigning against violence, and work to promote community diversity and solidarity. Since 2010, Reverend Lawson has served as a visiting scholar at CSUN, teaching courses and conducting workshops on nonviolent activism. He has worked with the university's faculty and given numerous on-campus public lectures on the theory and methodology of nonviolent social change. Through his teaching, Reverend Lawson has mentored hundreds of students. It is now my pleasure to ask President Harrison to come forward to confer the honorary degree.
No. Oh. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of the California State University and California State University Northridge, I am proud to confer upon Reverend Lawson the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters. I am pleased to present to you Dr. James M. Lawson, Jr., who will offer some brief remarks. It's good.
Sisters and brothers, I'm delighted to be here for this distinction from Cal State University Northridge. I want to offer my thanks on behalf of my family, my wife Dorothy, and the community of people here in Los Angeles for this distinguished honor and privilege. We are elated. I accept it with gratitude to President Harrison, to the faculty and trustees, all of whom have voted this distinction. I thank you with all my heart. I received this on behalf of the work I've tried to do across the years and the multitude of ordinary men and women and young people and children who in fact have sought to bring about social change and creative justice, not through anger or through fear, not through the mailed fist, or through violence, but through the capacities of their own character, through love and truth, and through the beauty of the gift of life itself. On behalf of those who are known and unknown, I rejoice in the fact that, indeed, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, were as young men slaves in the United States, in perhaps the state of Virginia, who escaped slavery as very young people. My grandfather perhaps was no more than 9 or 10 years of age, and they went up into Canada through the Underground Railroad with lots of assistance from all kinds of people. And there in what is called the Queen's Bush, 100 and so miles away from Toronto, in Guelph, Ontario, my grandfather was able to hammer out a farm out of that bush and became an effective, essential, and a successful farmer. That land may still be in the hands of our family. In any case, that example for me, as well as an example of the many, many, many people, the Dream Act people here at CSUN, who by their courage and integrity and their commitment to do something with their lives that indeed will not only change them, but change others and change the very character of our nation, we accept this award on all their behalf. I want to be as brief as I can. But first of all, I want to say to you, the graduates, not only my congratulations to you, especially those who are the first members of their family to graduate from a college. That alone is such an important part of what we in the United States ought to be about. I want to say to you that is so important for you to recognize that your life is a gift of power, a gift of energy, a gift of love from the universe itself, Many of us have called that source of the universe God, and it is a gift that is extraordinary and invaluable. Understand that as you move from this stage of your life to the next part of your journey, you can excel in almost every fashion that you want to excel in if you're willing to see that your life is more important than the circumstances under which you live. You've had many examples in the DREAM Act, people who are a part of this campus. I remember a statement from Jesus of Nazareth, and I do not use this man with all the dogma that Christianity has put around him, because that's so unnecessary, and not only unnecessary, but it allows us to encrust Jesus, the human being who lived approximately 2,000 years ago at this very moment, 2016, he lived around the time of 16 of this era. Jesus says something like this: what does it profit a human being, a man or a woman, to gain the whole world, but to lose or forfeit their soul, their life? You may go forth from this place and become as successful as any other human being could possibly be. But if you lose your character, if you use your heart, your soul, your mind, your spirit, the capacity of your life to go far beyond anything that you have aspired to or can possibly imagine, you have gained success, but you have lost your most precious gift. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is this: that we, the people who have certificates of graduation from higher education and various kinds of graduate degrees, professional degrees, we have an overwhelming task. And that task, indeed, is to help our nation understand that this land of ours, this people of ours, 323 million of us, must somehow find the gumption to make democracy work, not only for ourselves, but for every boy and every girl in every part of these 50 states and territories that are ours. It is not enough that some of us can be successful. We have to recognize that a long history of our nation also describes the deprivation that we have heaped upon many people. In these confusing days in a presidential election, let us be among the ordinary men and women and young people all across our land, all across our world, who see that we can stand for truth, that we can stand for compassion and love, who see that we can make changes among ourselves, that we can dismantle the tyrannies in our own cities, in our own streets, in our own land, and we can help build the space for new structures of democracy, new structures of people living in concord and living together with noble purpose. And then the final thing I want to lift up is to offer you the fact that there is such a discipline of life called nonviolence, a term coined by Mohandas K. Gandhi of India around 1906 in South Africa while he was resisting the racism and the arrogance of Western civilization in South Africa. Gandhi saw nonviolence as love in action, that we human beings have the capacity to transform ourselves. We do not need to do that in violence. Violence has no future. The future of violence we can see every day in the news media, in Syria, in Iraq, in the eastern part of Congo, in Nigeria, in our own streets, in domestic violence in our society, in the structured violence of incarceration, in the structured violence of racial hostility and sexual inequality, the inequality of women. These things can be changed. These things are not built in concrete. These things do not represent the purpose of life or the purpose of eternity. We must not go forth in this world of ours thinking the things as they are and the way that things will always be. We human beings are at a place in our own long journey that is far beyond the aspiration and the imagination of all of the different human heritages which are ours. We are in a day when we have created the technology, the chemical weapons, the weapons of mass destruction, the weapons of climate change and climate chaos, where we can extinguish ourselves in our world and make this planet uninhabitable for life as we today know it. We must move from violence to nonviolence, from violence of the spirit, from hating or despising any group of people anywhere in our own city or nation, anywhere in the world, from denigrating human life to making life noble for all. We must move from the violence of the word, the violence of the fist, the violence of the bomb, the violence of fear, the violence of violence and structures of society to a nonviolent perspective. In doing that, we will help the 21st century to be the finest century for not only the advancement of the human race, but for the ennobling of human life. Our task is not alone as persons to be effective and competent people of common sense and compassion. Our task is also to join hands with one another in such a fashion. We who have degrees and learning, we must lead the way in helping our nation become the nation indeed where equality, liberty, and justice, where the beloved community exists for every boy, every girl of any creed or complexion, of any state or geography, so that therefore our democratic experiment may one day allow life for all of us to be at a level of aspiration and power. Your life is invaluable. You cannot measure its worth, but you can launch into such a life of service to yourself, of service to others, that we can make justice the spirit and the structure of life itself. Congratulations to all of you, to you, your families and your friends.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Lawson, for that incredibly inspirational speech. And again, congratulations from all of us, and thank you. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. E. Lee, who is our Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, who will now present the candidates for the master's degrees.
Thank you, President Harrison. Will all candidates for the master's degree please rise? President Harrison, from the College of Humanities, I present the candidate for the master's degree awarded in Master of Arts in Chicano Studies, Master of Arts in English, Master of Arts in Humanities, Master of Arts in Linguistics, Master of Arts in Spanish, and Master of Arts in Teaching of English as a Second Language. And from the College of Health and Human Development, I present the candidates for the master's degree awarded in Master of Science in Communicative Disorders, Master of Science in Environmental and Occupational Health, and Master of Science of Family and Consumer Services. These candidates have completed the requirement for the master's degree as prescribed by the state of California and the trustees of California State University. And they have been recommended by the faculty of California State University, Northridge. Candidates, please continue standing as President Harrison confers the master's degree upon you.
Upon the recommendation of the faculty of California State University, Northridge, and by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts in Chicano and Chicana Studies, Master of Arts in English, Master of Arts in Humanities, Master of Arts in Linguistics, Master of Arts in Spanish, Master of Arts in Teaching of English as a Second Language, Master of Science in Communicative Disorders, Master of Science, Environmental and Occupational Health, and Master of Science in Family and Consumer Sciences. With all of the rights, honors, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. Congratulations to each of you, and please be seated. I now will call on Dr. Elizabeth Say, Dean of the College of Humanities, and Dr. Tammy Aberesk, Interim Dean of the College of Health and Human Development. They will present the candidates for the baccalaureate degree.
There are 10 disciplines represented by graduates from the College of Humanities today. They are from the departments of Asian American Studies, Central American Studies, Chicano and Chicana Studies, English, Gender and Women's Studies, Liberal Studies, Linguistics, Modern and Classical Languages and Literatures, Philosophy, and Religious Studies.
Impressive. And there are 11 disciplines represented by the graduates from the College of Health and Human Development, and many of them are here tonight. They are from the departments of Communication Disorders and Sciences, Environmental and Occupational Health, and Family and Consumer Sciences. Will all the candidates for the baccalaureate degrees please rise and remain standing? All the candidates. All the candidates. President Harrison, I have the honor of presenting to you the undergraduate class of 2016. These candidates have completed the requirements for the baccalaureate degrees as prescribed by the state of California and the trustees of California State University, and they have been recommended for their degrees by the faculty of California State University, Northridge.
Are all of the baccalaureate degree candidates standing up? Just checking. All right. Upon the recommendation of the faculty of California State University, Northridge, and by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees, I confer upon you the degree of Bachelor of Arts in Asian American Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Central American Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Chicano and Chicana Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Communication Disorders and Sciences, Bachelor of Arts in English, Bachelor of Arts in French, Bachelor of Arts in Humanities, Bachelor of Arts in Honors in English, Bachelor of Arts in Gender and Women's Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Linguistics, Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy, Bachelor of Arts in Honors in Philosophy, Bachelor of Arts in Religious Studies, Bachelor of Science in Environmental and Occupational Health, Bachelor of Science in Family and Consumer Sciences, with all of the rights, the honors, and opportunities pertaining thereto. Congratulations, and please be seated.
Members of the platform party and faculty will now offer congratulations to our degree students. I ask that the degree candidates please move to the platform as directed by the marshals. Please come forward as your name is read. You will be congratulated by President Harrison after receiving your diploma cover and certificate. Afterwards, please return to your seats as directed by the marshals, commencement staff, and ushers.
I ask that guests please help so that we may proceed in an orderly manner. When we remind you that the aisles must be kept open and you are asked to stay in your seats until the end of the ceremony. Out of respect for our graduates and the safety of our guests, noisemakers are not permitted. Or beach balls.
From the College of Health and Human Development, I will now read the names of graduates from the Department of Communication Disorders and Sciences. Tyler Heckathorn. Carrie Ann Honeycutt. Christina Devon. Jonathan Russell. Wendy Doling. Rachel Woolley. Lauren Tioli. Natalie C. Borkhardt. Eva Hernandez. Emily Lamawa. Ana Santamaria. Raluca Nekodin. Brittany Alexandra Forrest. Nicole Williamson. Andrea Herrera. Margarita Makassian. Ariel Ann Santor. Charlene Ragayan. Yana Lavrentra. Leslie Leon. Andrea Sellis. Murti Purbo. Emily Proctor. Jessica Gamboa. Giovanna Smith. Ashley Thompson. Michelle Blanco. Nicole Santa Romana. Angela Hodeb. Chuha Park. Danielle Hemasian. Leilak Badakian. Nina Dalwal. Gerwin Sandhu. Vanna Panosian. Leila Quem. Susanna Nikosian. Jenna Martinez. Karen Contreras. Joanna Rojas. Samantha Lemus. Kelly Marie Mora. Jessica Peoples. Jessica Gutierrez. Taylor Williams. Michelle Varela. Amy Dan. Jocelyn McCabe. Agata Christ. Talia Baltzell. Maria Marinovich. Rosanna Almanza. Abigail Garcia. Gabriela Preciado. Guadalupe Mora. Paola Vasquez. Tanya Lopez. Alejandra Montoya. Michelle Quezada. Natalie Marone. Kristen Schultz. Michelle McCourt. Michael McCourt. Christian Vargas. Katie Mardiat. Viviana Flores. Anna Molina. Zarina Irish Montesalenze. Jennifer Razo. Hannah Gallagher. David Dillon. Melissa McCann. Heidi Vacafor. Cheryl Whitney. Erica Cornejo. Helidoro Medina. Savannah McGinnis. Alexandra Chacon. Elizabeth Villanueva. Jamie Eustace. Saya Goel. Elizabeth O'Hara. Annie Kasikian. Jessica Lester. Put this in the card. Ariana Cruz. Celine Paulina Banag. Sarah Gary. Sarah Gear. Kaylee Ann McMaster. Erica Graham. William Diaz. Celeste Chin. Darlene Ceballos.
Now reading the names for the Department of Environmental and Occupational Health. Helen DeBooty Mandrick. Jonathan Cooper. Carla Dudley. Shaquila Balky. Lucia Liu. Miriam Mortazai. Diana Barr. Gloria Benzakia. Randy Jones. Yorvashi Kosla. Brandon Montes. Jacob LeMay. Cesar Romano, Jose Alvarez, Christian Rodriguez, James Jones, Anthony Vicente, Ismael Martinez, Gregory Escopio Escobar, Dennis Castaneda, Ty Bass, Annie Mekasigian, Zovik Zovikian, Lauren Istoris, Mary Matarosian, Hayarpi Oganesian, Risime McCurchian, Arthur Tarosian, Talar Jarakian, Paulina Nicole Castreon, Janine Fuertes, Joyce Liu, Steve Gerardi, Deepak Janda, Farhad Majidi, Kyle Foster, Dominic Booker Pomata, Josemar Correas, Carrie Angelique Rubalcaba, Stephanie Aragon, Chang Xin, Tuan Win, Ying Lin, Fernanda Barber, Chris Liu, Susan Jay, Renee Balliot, Suriporn Smith, Erica Michelle Alcantara, Joe Lubag, Jeff Arsua, Sharon Phillip, Myra Martinez, Karim Mohsen, Surhrag Tomasian, Shelby Stuckey, Arik Baharosi, Neil Calzado, Roxana Cabral, Priscilla Echevarria, Joanna Torres, Amber Duran. Now reading the names for the Department of Family and Consumer Sciences. Ann Hebner, Africa Martinez, Norma Yamas, Briona Muller, Sun Yong An, Dilma Amaskita, Jennifer Unical, Stephanie Paredes, Jennifer Benita Franklin, Ariel Ranson, Abigail Moncada, Judith Escutia, Myra Segovia, and Mary George Hanna, LaWanda Baker, Stacy Ramirez, Gabriela Herrera, Jessica Mendez, Tony Jacalone, Susie Wilson, Nora Almacian, Sinag Ramos, Andrea Cummings, Maren Stein, Debrin Kashani, Timothy Tran, Nara Davudi, Gaia Sarkisian, Ruben Vargas, Leanne Quintos Calupe, Tatiana Kieswetter,
Diana Uribe, Yuying Wang,
Ling Yong Lee. Grace Wang. Seya Jing. Caitlin Dahl. Christine Kim. Esmeralda Galavez. Duwata Macalino. Christian Nihal. Tanya Mansourian. Shima Fazeli Manish. Kayung Ku. Rodolfo Matos. Darren Lee. Usman Khan. Christina Eskander. Sean Greenhut. Rafi Habeshian. Maria Morera. Esther Schultz. Alisa Bartholomew. Jocelyn Harrison. Mohammed Alubadian. Sofia Adriana Lopez. Anna Kachatarian. Ike Sarkeesian. Augusto Macbeth. Norland K. Corpus. Michael Chung. Gabrielle DuPont. Danielle Shapiro. Christy Liu. Vincent Chisano Boye. Nada Almashan. Ruth Garza. Leo Barajas. Ashley Manson. Yola Bachik. Ana Castaneda. Christina Galegian. Afreen Patel. Aline Yajian. Christopher Otomo. Maura Postleway. Jonathan Zachary. Brandon Riley. Paola Hernandez. Florence Sahagan. Nasheen Ahmed. Samantha Dirks. Myra Mahanos. Walter Fuentes. Tanishra Palomera. Afruz Karatzi. Paula Cortez. Kelly Stevenson. Lena Agrabak. Brandy Randolph. Kayla Mann. Luis Videros. Julia Guyen. Raymond Chicani. Brian Rivera. Lilith Malkassian. Syra Escalera. Anit Kachatrian. Almelinda de Guzman Valeria. Michelle Lynn Pearson. Sarah Nichols. Aseli Albrahan Alcimera. Shant Kazarjian. Tatiana Arevalo. Lourdes Cervantes. Jency Ramos. Jacqueline Almonte. Irma Madrigal. Aaron Engel. Edgar Alzate. Alice Baltayan. Karen Jacinto. Amal Bazrahi. Orvit Zagar Azizi. Lauren Burke. Diana Jessica Alvarez. Valeria Orzo Mora. Natalie Gonzalez. Carliano Verona. Sarah Magnan. Arpine Vardanian. Peter Hernandez. Alejandra Perez. Jasmine Valladolid. Jesus Monreal. Alexa Ray Nuno. Phoebe Aiken. Hannah Andrews. Brianna Nicole Bowers. Noel Zagad. Lindsay Kusimoto. Karina Ramirez. Autumn Hooks. Mary Carmen Beltran. Kayla Cooley. Anna Viana. Jeanette Tabush. Beatriz Reyes. Karina Guzman.
Daniela Tirado. Janeri Menjivar. Rebecca Schlesinger. Shiva Gardasham. Lida Salvatierra. Karen Landaverde. Adriana Trencoso. Giovanna Garcia. Ashley Monson. Jairo Claustro. Monier Anes Durham. Javier Gallardo. Elizabeth Titos Martinez. Ejuseva Hernandez. Wendy Posada. Ricky Prasad. Joshua Jackson. Amy Foster. Regine Appling. Catherine Gunn. Jacob Anderson. Fiona Megan Leahy. Christina Grieve. Jose Alanis. Brittany Taylor Shell. Danica Alyssa Mateo. Lindsay Brown. Olivia Valdez. Elvis Smith. Kiara Hatcher. Tatiana Lombard. Amanda Saucedo Torres. Kevin Moore. Sade Rochelle. Johanna Tola. Sarah Agai. Brian Alexander Perry. Nakia Sherry Ward. Christine Vanovian. Erica Castro. Nika Levinson. Sugair Godoy. Andrew Hu. Xian Lo. Michelle Ruiz. Camila Farias. Agnes Baboud. Rina Velasco. Nina Degani. Alexandra Dialde Karam. Danielle Heyman. Savannah Eccles. Dominic Sereno IV. Gabriela Esquivel. Taylor Garibaldi. Lauren Dredd. Afasun Firosun. Lauren Bullock. Tak Pui Sun. Lindsay Michelle Pedone. Andrea Levine. Marilyn Duke Peraza. Neda Bakhtar. Natalie Harabedian. Vanessa Martinez. Michelle Sima. Sapir Mirazi. Tantu Monica Loon. Nina Farid Varmoheb. Yeva Bogoritskaya. Stephen Irvin. Stephanie Burkhart. Molly O'Brien. Anna Gomez. Zaira Alvarado. Ariel Bautista McCarty. Aura Alessandra Madrigal. Sydney Phoebe. Lourdes Mendez. Jessica Flores.
You got it?
Hello there. Yeah, just like that.
Okay, this is now announcing the names for English. Okay.
Now announcing the names for English. Christopher Espinoza. Melissa Malvin Middleton. Kim Nguyen. Saracine Basmajian. Susan Marie Jagos. Sharon Lim. Stephanie Jones. Eric Cuffs. Araceli Colato. James Becerra. Socheta San. Freddie Garcia. Nazanin Kenija. Lucine Macarosian. Christian Cardenas. Jordan Guevara. Wiam Gosene. Jennifer Roderick. Jonathan Mejia. Amanda El Khoury. Jesse Gray. Jessica M. Stewart. Ritter. Malene Martell Randolph Ritter. Patricia Navaratnasian. Alexis Roberts. Nathaniel Roberts. Yasmin Martinez. Sarai Alvarez. Ana Cosio. Rachel Kaufman. Victoria Sandoval. Corianne Bailey. Sandra Lilia Flores. Victoria Bertalia Escobar. Kimberly Olgun. Veronica Yvonne Perez Barbon. Gabriel Romero. Now reading the names for the Department of English.
Spielman.
Gwendolyn Spielman. Mackenzie Alsip. Rebia Rahim. Alejandro I. Vargas. Benedetto Dickey. Isa Lufty. Luis Almendarez. Samantha Goli. Max Griffin. Andrew Beth Kitod. Beth Kitod. Sean Atchison. Sean Aitchison. Debbie Lynn Kinsler. Shorea Olmeda. Dana Mae Loth. Webster Heath. Kimberly Harkeen. Terry Hong. Natalie Rocha. Elizabeth Lopez Corrales. Amanda Vasquez. Alvaro Castillo. Cesar Osona. Juan Adam. Jared Carvalho. Kenneth Guillory Jr. Paula Sofia Alvarado Figueroa. Jesse Cruz. Jennifer Saltos. Yun Chung Kim. Jose Farias. Rafael Padilla. Tabitha Chang. Abel Mendoza Jr. Jordan Burney. Rodre Spears. Donovan Sean Wiley. Zachary Kessler. Moses Tero Ganesian. Judy Spilks. Judy Spilka. Samantha Beatty. Zoe Martha Ray Quinn Dwyer. Zulema Ugalde. Catherine Cherish. Jessica Pensner. Trevor Meisner. Samantha Lieb. Brianna Costantini. Christina Steeson. Rocio Velasquez. Rocio Velasquez. Jessica Haddad. Elizabeth Pantoja. Kyla Robertson. Kyla Robertson. Vanessa Vega. Carla Vajaro. Andrea Peterson. Francesca Hoed. Gina Lara. Yolanda Ramirez. Kevin Regis. Ismael Salgado. Beatrice Eugenia Coronado. Mirna Sabrine Lee. Jacqueline Thornock. Juvel Mar Engal. Amy Mahoney. Taylor Rose Viestas. Natalie Gibson. Cynthia Tafoya. Christian Espinoza. Carly DeSalvio. Stephanie Nicole Flores. Stephanie Reyes. Ramon Garcia. Crystal Swakat Hilo. Irma Diaz. William Alisa Jr. Jillian Morales. Bronwyn Stewart. Vivian Sargassian. Michael J. Gonzalez. Tillard Vilmazian. Aline Arsalnian. Hakab Oganasian. Gerald Ortiz. Allegra White. Michelle Dow.
Marissa Borove. Trina Tejo. Chandler Beckman Gonzalez. Tatiana Orston Ramos. Sabrina Pardo. Jasmine Nino. Jake Peterson. Michael Brown. Marcus Rigsby. Drew Felix. Arlene Vartanian. Now reading the names for the Department of Philosophy. Christopher Ishaya.
Gonzalez Palmieri.
Carlos Gonzalez Palmieri. William Gallick Jr. Trent Erickson. Jesse Salazar.
Macarian.
Christopher Markarian.
Neil Bichet.
Neil Bechet.
Alexander Jurassian.
Alexander Jurassian.
Lamphere.
John Wesley Lamphere. Devin George.
Kabushani.
Joshua Kabushani. Jerome Manet Jr. Esteban Barr. Jenny Perez. Taylor Hawking. Cesar Bernal. Now reading the names for the Department of Linguistics. Fabrice Parche. Murnaz Sadat.
Zurich Bagumian.
Zorik Bagumian.
Josh Wojcik.
Josh Wojcik.
Ganesh Haq.
Ganesh Haq.
Lisa Maricet Valle.
Elisa Maricet Valles.
Darlene Camberos.
Darlene Camberos. Sean Sally.
Oji Estiri.
Hogi Sistiri.
Eugene Alcazi.
Lujane Alkazi.
Albir Al-Ghafari.
Abir Al-Ghafari. Cynthia Martinson.
Navard Kodanchin.
Navard Kodanchian. Elizabeth Morales. Hadley Stork. Daniel Guerrero. Pete Torres. Catherine Grayson. Laura Carroll.
Lavin.
Jamie Lavin.
Simonian.
Mary Simonian.
Donja
Danya
Alzoltan.
Alazamni.
Abdullah Al-Mihaini.
Abdullah Alamahani.
Muhammad Justin Al-Rakim. Wendy Palatino. Nicole Mocha. Juliet Guzman. Justin Remo. Jose Luis Ramirez. Emily Lorraine Landicho. Cole Park. Now reading the names for the Department of Religious Studies. Judy Gutierrez. Jeanette Claudia Toledo. Michelle Roberts. Kayla Bonin. Amanda Eldab. Cameron Swazi Brooks Kemp. Gina Ali. Otto Catalan. Justin Mead. Victoria Ruiz. Now reading names for the Department of Modern Jewish Studies.
Avital El Kayam.
Abatal El Kayam. Now reading the names for the Department of Liberal Studies. Cristobal Salazar. Kimberly Eva Gomez Duran. Mary Elena Alcatelian. Gladys Rodriguez. Vanya Antil Singh. Maria Camille Bianca Dino. Lisbeth Sandoval. Christine Mesa. Stacy Marie Cortez. J. Evan Peeler. Melad Haddad. Alexander Tosian. Julian Melody Jones. Joanna Lara. Celia Jacobo. Itzel Chirperes. Tiffany Espino. Raina Evans. Erica Broth. Michael Calderon. Oscar Lopez. Amanda Johnson. Cinda Bautima. Mary Aguilar. Emma Rios. Savannah Johnson. Michael Aragretti. John Mata. Michelle Morales. Alexandra Larson. Dianera Antunes. Diana Hernandez. Sonra Altracara. Catherine Oberman. Sandy Cordon. Felice Wurst. Scott Allen. Luis Gonzalez. Mariah Hall. John Platt. George Lee. Katerina Wisely. Amy Hahn. Catherine Marie Mendoza. Caitlin Hyder. Chelsea Ferguson. Catherine Leonard. Rebecca Leva. Nika Pickwood. Maria Razzo. Jesse Rodriguez. Rosa Angelica Morales. Stephanie Michaela Martinez. Maria Guadalupe Piedra. Yesenia Regosa. Michelle Hernandez. Karina Contreras. Rigo Solario. Solario. Bridget Badro. Vanessa Anna Marie Rivera. Diana Patino Lee.
Karina Beltran. Esther Oliveros. Armin Petrosian. Villain Kirakosian. Maria Carmen Uribe Anguiano. Damaris Rodas. Martha Garcia. Allison Lopez. David O. Hassan Zulkarnain. Derek Blackshear. Kendall Sebastian. Vanessa Salaka. Francisca Maricela Rodriguez. Eric Sassoon. Nicholas Blazer. Ruth Solomon. Mary Espinosa. Christine Dashdamirians. Amber Nicole Bartmus. Emily Norman. Taylor Barker. Hannah Bellman. Nicole Nunn. Annie Amirian. Eileen Yanez. Nancy Harrow. Christina Payne. Taryn Jeffrey. Daniel Solorzano. Jason Lee. Carolyn Smith. Teresia Jolyn Childs. From the College of Humanities, I will now read the names of graduates from the Department of Asian American Studies. Lorenzo Roca Martia. Cielito Thea Fernandez. Betiva Pena. Raymond Lee Bascal. Diana Lindy. George Lee. Pauline Cicerical. Nicholas Boyce.
Now reading the names for the Department of Central American Studies.
Orellana, very Spanish.
Jose Roberto Orellana. Karen Bonilla Duran. Justine Evans. Diane Mendoza. Leah Margarita Gonzalez. Rosa Salamanca. Jessica Marie Duran. Emerson Funes. Now reading the names for the Department of Chicana and Chicano Studies. Elizabeth Luna. Annette Trujillo. Cynthia Martinez. Luis Rodriguez. Tanya Tolteca. Ana Marlene Hidalgo Moreno. Rebecca Gomez. William Ruiz. Mark Morales. Mario Gonzalez. Cindy Rojas. Jess Cardiel. Guadalupe Rodrigo Castro. Raquel Gonzalez. Georgia Acosta. Gracie Arenas. Mario Hernandez. Cristal Mas. Priscilla Montserrat Diaz. Stephanie Martinez. Arlen C. Morales. Lily Gonzalez. Karina Ortiz Ballesa. Got it. Maria Josefa Pablo. Johanna Carmona. Carla Janet Torres. Ana Celie Manzo. Fabiola Gutierrez. Marlena Andrade. Yesenia Cruz Rios. Myra Briseño. Iris Mendoza. Juana Moran. Jessica Suarez. Ruben Chacon. Jatel Cabrera. Maritza Garcia. Maribel Garcia. Now reading the names of the Department of Gender and Women's Studies. Kismerly Perez. Yoreni Ruiz. Jose Reynoso. Hope McMorrow. Chanel Bates. Dominique Osborne. Carolyn Gonzalez. Stephanie Montoya. Margaret Golabian. Tamara Gilmore. Yahaira Lares. Megan May Miller. Valerie Hernandez. Elena Rodriguez. Thalia Franco. Amanda Ernst. Erica Barraza. Gisele Rodriguez. Esme Taylor. Now reading the names for the Department of Humanities Interdisciplinary. Prince Mohammed Essa. Nicholas Andrews. Timothy Nang. Now reading the names for the Department of Modern and Classical Languages. Jacqueline Loza. Elena Rocha. Maria Elena Molane. Jesus Tinoco. Luis Lara. Eric Lacey. Juan Quadra. Cody Okazaki. Marie L. Bailey. Morgan Hudson. Gregory Farmer. Maria Pappas. Eugenia Zala. Alina Tukieva. Omar Bautista. Hector Dominguez. Nestor Vargas. Chris Barrios. Pedro Gallegos. Taya Diaz. Jasmine Favela. Margarita Ojeda. Raul Frederick Diaz. Sandra Maldonado. Margarita Chavez Velasquez. Berenice Arsate. Karen Sanchez Sanchez. Erica Vianney Lopez. Nahari Escarcega. Almalinda Nava. Carelli Navia. Valeria Guevara. Tiffany Enriquez. Sasha Campanoso. Miguel Becerra. Thank you. Want me to do something? That's all right, I got it. Go ahead.
Now reading the names for the Department of Liberal Studies. Andrew Guerrero. Jose Valencia. Clara Pino. Samantha Kang. Viviana Gomez. Yesenia Ariola. Elizabeth Ramirez. Melanie Sandoval. Kimberly Gonzalez. Lilia Nancy Barragan. Cindy Hernandez. Yadira Moreno. Barbara Butters. Elizabeth Panduro. Andrea Huiza. Betty Sortovera. Marina Poplowski. Dolores Vasquez. Guadalupe Hernandez. Ha Yong Choi. Veronica Orozco. Jasmine Campos. Laura Garcia. Elsie Argueta. Leslie Alas Hernandez. Lisa Ann Cheek. Stephen Garza. Tyrone Jeffries. Maria Guadalupe Mesa. Loida Bryan. Melissa Yu. Cynthia Morales. Paul Anthony Abasamas. Natalie Trudeau. Anne Kathleen Rodriguez. Ashley Moreno. Alexandra Ungerman. Serena Reyes. Jasmine Maitland. Nicole Jensen. Blanca Amaral. Annie Kacharian. Belém Rodriguez. Diana Aguilar. Andrew Jeff Lorenzo. Nicole Micalian. Mallory Jimenez. Gloria Quinones. Janet Valerio. Faith Alvarado Fernandez. Stephanie Williams. Alexandra Johanna Duarte. Brenda Vanderwillen. Savannah Roskin. Skylar Vase. Holly Moss. Ashley Mary Frances Rodriguez. Dorin Talibian. Catalina Danishvar.
Hi, Mom! Hi, Mom!
Estella Esquivia. Patricia Jane Molina. Alicia Bathy. Janet Morales. Monica Castillo. Karen Arevalo. Michael Estefan. Isa Marasovic. Dana Schwartz. Janine Tana Huvia. Jiang Mi Choi. Andrew Trujillo. Raul Haureki. Sasha Cazares. Stacy Blehut. Hasmin Rueda. Stevie Ray Gonzalez. Bianca Ochoa. Sarah Godse. Ruth Abigail Martinez. Samantha De Jesus. Brenda Aleman Reitana. Mindy Schofield. Hannah Jean Cox. Zachary Michael Cohen. Kiana Work. Karina Aguirre. Lorena Nolasco. Holly Rose. Leslie Flores. Rose Morales. Danielle Tyler. Luz Zepeda. Almarosa Soto. Ariel Feliciano. Patrick Santa Romana. Guillermo Mojaro. Stacy Maria Mendez. Alexander Bosley. Andrew Talib. Marcelo Trevino. Samantha Philpotts. Rocco Capo. Ashley Null. Rachel Bleedy. Jacqueline Fonseca. Evelyn Frosto. Jocelyn Henriquez. Giselle Dargali. Wilson Escalante. Sarah Bernstein. Farnaz Amir Dopari. Jacqueline Katash. Justin Moon. Christine Correa. Keone Leal. Maritza Castro. Karen Cardentny. Lucy Kim. Jessica Blackmore Fritz. Ashley Finnegan. Maria Gaite. Suhyun Park. Se Chong. Gabriela Guardado. Lori Su. Carlos Flores. Valencia Johnson. Ana Lilia Rodriguez. Nikki Kemp. Aisha Loggins. Adriana Garcia. Peter Jang. Valerie Cheney. Cynthia Martinez. Anna Lalayan. Glenda Mancia.
Keturah Grace Austin. Kyle Rankin. Harim De Leon. Tanya Ibarra. Maria Vasquez. Sagi Lavari. Sam Rashti. Nana Otsuki. Rosa Julio Rojas. Lourdes Villagomez. Eric Martinez. Amy Vanessa Gomez. Marchand Dotson. Najee Willis. Nigel Martin. William Flores. Emily Hancock. Esther Kim. Talia Michelle Ramos. Lisette Alvarez. Vanessa Grijalva. Zahari Iskandarian. Jasmine Thompson. Yaneli Cobb. Maria Mendoza. Julie Ham. Rosana Colmenares. Luis Fergoza Saravia. Diana Miranda. Brian Felix. Wensi Zhao. Angelica Martinez. Jessica Jokaregi. Jessica Haregi. Griselda Solis. Brenda Arias. Juan Manuel Gutierrez. Lee Sun. Laura Gabriela Mariscal. Karamdeep Kaur. Jorge Reynoso. Aaron Nicholas Jr.
Okay, we just have a couple of more things. Will all of the baccalaureate degree recipients, please rise? In academic tradition, the student who has not yet earned a degree wears the tassel to the right of the mortarboard. When the degree is conferred, the scholar moves the tassel to the left and joins a select company of highly educated men and women. In recognition of your new status, will all recipients of the baccalaureate degree please move your tassel to the left? I welcome you into the alumni family of California State University, Northridge. Thank you, and please be seated. It's not a trick. CSUN alumnus Charlene Bogon will now officially welcome you into the California State University Northridge Alumni Association.
On behalf of the CSUN Alumni Association and more than 320,000 CSUN graduates, it is my pleasure to be the first to formally welcome you as alumni of our great university. Now, each one of you may add the title of alumnus or alumni to your name. Today marks the beginning of a new and enduring relationship with Cal State Northridge. We encourage you to stay connected to CSUN as you continue to ascend to greatness. You will find many matadors out there like myself, ready and willing to help you achieve your dreams. And in turn, someday, we hope that you will aid the next generation to follow in your path. Congratulations and welcome to the new CSUN alumni family. We are proud of you. Congratulations.
Very good. Now, go out into the world, accomplish great things, and come back and tell us about them so we may brag about you. To officially close this ceremony, I ask that all of our students, faculty, and CSUN alum rise up for the university alma mater. Hail to the Matadors. Under the musical direction of Matt Harris and our Jazz A band, and sung by Gretchen Anderson. The words to the alma mater are on the inside front cover of your program in case you don't know all the words, but I'm sure you do. After the alma mater has concluded, please remain at your seats until the platform party and our faculty have recessed. We ask that our parents and guests also remain seated until the end of the recessional. Thank you. Congratulations.